tide is changing. A few weeks ago, many of you felt what Americans have been feeling for the last year and a half. I'm losing my country. What can I do? How can I make a difference? And look at you now, Sheboygan. Give yourself a rousing standing applause for your participation. Tomorrow's headlines will not say this, but in all truth, your headlines should say this. Thousands turned out to reassert the founding principle that built the United States of America. The founding principle that was in a shot heard round the world. The founding principle that has given every nation that seeks hope, that seeks redemption, has given it all of those things. A founding principle many of your fellow Americans have forgotten, but you have not forgotten, Sheboygan. And that principle is this: when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there is liberty. You're very compliant. You know what? Maybe I should take up a collection. Are you ready to join 5.9 million of your fellow Americans into the second American Revolution? But first, dear hearts, let me hear your yes or no response to these questions. Do you believe when a government does for you, or anyone does for you, what you should be doing for yourself, you lose your freedom? I didn't hear you. 278 years in the grave does strange things. Are you sick and tired of ignorance dictating to truth with their putrid labels? If you're against gay marriage, you're a homophobe. If you're against the president's programs, you're a racist. If you're against illegal aliens making a mockery of our rule of law, then you are an immigrant-bashing, white bigot, flag-waving crazy. Are you sick and tired of this putrid labeling? Do you believe it is time to raise the national debate above politics, above policies, and to hold your officials accountable to principles? Very eloquent speakers talk to you on the main issues of the day, brilliantly presented, easily understandable. I'm going to suggest to you, dear friends, it's politics and policies that have put you into the greatest catastrophe in the history of this country. You cannot and should not unite around politics, but you must unite around principles. Raise the national debate to one of principles. Under what principle of common sense, Mr. or Miss Representatives, are you voting for a government takeover of our health care? We know the politics, we know the policies, but under what principle? Hold them accountable. Are you going to vote for a government that can't pay its bills, can't balance its budget, a government that has masked a deficit twice the combined deficit of every country on earth? Pray tell, sir or madam, under what principle of common sense should I now believe that a government that is spending Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security into pending bankruptcy, a government that can't run a railroad, a government that can't run a housing project. Under what principle of common sense are you voting for that government to miraculously find fiscal responsibility, efficiency, and everything else that we require for someone who's going to have life and death decisions over our health care? What is your principles? A very incredible moment happened for Mr. Paine in July. I received, I believe the world received, and I hope America received, the greatest example of what happens in this debate that you're all involved in. If you rise above politics, if you rise above policies. It came from an unusual place. It came from France. The president of France invited Mr. Paine to come to Paris and to speak to 10,000 Parisians. As you know, Mr. Paine, when he left the American Revolution, he joined the French Revolution and became a member of their General Assembly and almost was guillotined. I don't think the French invited Mr. Paine because of his writings. I believe that anyone who advocates a revolution against England is automatically a dear personal friend of France. Nevertheless, you have to understand what had happened 2 years ago when 10 million Muslims, not all of them, but many of them, decided to burn down Paris, decided to protest because they wanted Sharia law in France. So there was great tension in France. You don't say anything about the Muslims. They might do it again. Then this extraordinary thing happens. The meeting I had with the president was canceled. I was told he had an important announcement. Our spineless politicians, our spineless representatives haven't got the guts to do what this man did. And here's what he did. He went on television and he announced, in a nation filled with racial tension, the French government will not allow Muslim women to wear their burqas or face coverings in public. He said, it is not because we are anti-Muslim, not because we don't respect all religions, but because those face coverings demean and disrespect the dignity of women all over the world. And then the miracle. Keep in mind, France is now giving the world and the United States of America a lesson it desperately needs. His next words were, and on the principle, all people are created equal, the French people will not permit symbols of female oppression to be part of their public culture. That is our principle.